Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great week. I've come on to discuss with you some things that I had found, and I really should have gotten you the actual article. And let me see if I can get that for you right now. And I did want to show it to you. And we kind of need to discuss it because it does affect our lives. Um, in a lot of ways. Now I know that you see the title and you're like, well, Anne, I don't do that. Okay, but let me explain to you how it will affect us in a lot of other different ways. So let me get that for you. Good morning, good morning. Um, and I did, and I'm going to do it again if I can. Uh, you know what? I'll tag them later after the show, but let me share it with you now, and then we're going to talk about it. So share screen, and I'm sorry that my screen looks funny this morning. Um, I don't know. It had some StreamYard's doing something silly, and they asked me to click on it. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I did. That's what happens when you're agreeable. Anyhow, so I'm not sure if you guys can see that. I hope you can. Unfortunately, the screen is very small this morning. And it talks about that President Trump is looking to sign a THC ban. Now, and I can share this with you if you want to read it. Let me get rid of all this. And let me get, what does this say here? Okay. So, without having to read the whole thing, I'll just explain to you what's going on here. So, there seems to have been where President Trump stuck in, he kind of slid in there, the bill that was going to get rid of, you know, low volume THC that's in products like gummies and these what do you call rubs and stuff that people use, topical ointments and whatever that people have been using. And I don't think he's getting rid of all of it. He's just making sure that it's going to have less than, I think, 4% or something. Let me see if I can find that amount real quick. I think that's what it was. Yeah, 0.4 milligram threshold. He wants it to be not to surpass a 0.4 milligram threshold. So not to be intoxicating. Now, here's my stance. You can see it. Okay, great. The danger of poo-pooing on hemp-related products, THC products, is that if you start to make this an illegal substance once again, okay, because I really think this needs to be rethought, then that's when it ends up on the street. That's when there's crime. That's when people start putting stuff in it. It becomes dangerous. You're not going to stop people from wanting to smoke it, rub it, gummy it, whatever it is that they do with it. Now, I don't use this, so it's not like I'm sticking up for myself here, but we've got countries that are out there right now that realize that this is a substance that's been out, since the beginning of time. God created this plant, okay? And we've been given dominion over it. Let's be real. If we're children of God, this is what we have. President Trump was put into place to give us freedoms, not to give us restrictions. We've gotten that from the establishment. Okay? We've gotten millionaires and billionaires telling us what they think we should be doing and taking and how we should be spending our money. And he was supposed to be freeing us from that. Now, if you look at a country like the Netherlands, who said, you know what? We don't want this on our street. We don't want people selling it illegally. We don't want it to become a dangerous situation. And we're smart enough to know we could tax it and actually make money for the community, for the state, for the country, if we just sell it, legally, and we'll have control over it. And what they did was, not only did they make it to where it's like you just walk in and you purchase it, these are places that you could go in and you can socialize. You can have a cup of coffee, you can have a cup of cocoa, you can have a soda, you could play a board game, you could play pool, you can, meet with your friends, just like a bar, which is the segue I'm about to make right now. If we're going to poo-poo on cannabis, on THC, on hemp, well, then I don't see the real reason and logic for having alcohol on the shelves. I don't see why alcohol, especially whiskey, rum, vodka, and the like of all these liquors are needed. Okay, I'll give you an example. I've noticed video after video on YouTube of people who try to get on an airplane drunk. Now, of course, naturally, I agree. If some drunk wants to get on an airplane, please stop them. But why would you sell alcohol in an airport then? That makes no sense to me. Now, we also know that alcohol has contributed to family abuse, very bad domestic abuse. Will most of the time, almost 100% will tell you that the abuser was drunk, not stoned, drunk. Okay? You don't hear about potheads beating up their wives, but it's always a drunk. All right? Not saying that potheads, they're lazy. They don't really care about anything. Okay? That's a problem in itself. But most times you don't hear about abuse. Okay? Also driving deaths. Come on, how many? We've got MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We don't have Mothers Against Pot Driving. Now, I'm not saying smoke a joint and get behind the wheel. Just as bad. But what's the difference? You'll find a pothead driving at 25 miles an hour versus somebody who's on alcohol driving 125 miles an hour. Okay? Like, let's be real for a minute. You've got bar after bar, restaurant after restaurant that somebody can walk in drunk and they still get served. And yet this is not a problem. Now, here's the funny part about all of this. When this was put into the bill, the one person who stood up and said this is not a good idea was Rand Paul. Now, I am not a big fan of Rand Paul, yet he's the only one that has a medical background. Everybody else is a millionaire and a billionaire. And I'm sorry, but just because you're a millionaire and a billionaire doesn't give you the right to make medical decisions, to say what's good for us and what's not good for us. If this is the case, then get rid of all mind-altering substances then. And that's including alcohol. You're going to destroy an entire industry just because it's not your drug of choice. And that's really what it is. Mitch McConnell was one who was against the THC being allowed. He was totally voted for this ban. Let's go run through Mitch McConnell's house. How much you want to bet we'll find plenty of alcohol there? Or if I go into his medicine cabinet, how many opiates is he taking? You know what I mean? It's like, do what I say, not what I do. And this is exactly what I thought President Trump and his administration was fighting against. We have enough of the establishment telling us how to live and what to do and how to do it. I hate to burst your bubble, but cannabis does not need to be like alcohol needs to be fermented. Cannabis comes in its natural form the way God created it. Same thing with opiates. I fight for that. We started out with pain meds way back in the 1800s. I even think even in the 1700s. No, maybe not 17. I think more 18. Where a doctor would give a tincture of morphine. Okay? He had cocaine and Coca-Cola, for crying out loud. All these years, all these decades, doctors were given what they felt their patient needed. Then all of a sudden, big pharma came into the picture. Okay? And they're not run by doctors. It's businessmen. People looking to make a profit. And then you had the insurance companies, again, not run by doctors. You got a couple of nurses who make decisions based on profit, not on patient care. Same with the CDC. It's all been about money. And you're making decisions for us and what you think we should take and not take. Not the doctor. Not the doctor who went to 12 years of school. So I don't need another billionaire and I don't need another multimillionaire telling me what is allowed and what's not allowed. And I got to tell you, this ban would be the dumbest thing you could ever do. It's just dumb. It doesn't speak freedom. It once again speaks imprisonment by a bunch of men who just want to make money. I can't stand up for this. Because you're talking about things that people are using for pain. For example, the topical. How is somebody getting high by putting topical THC on their skin? And who cares if they're getting high? You're going to tell me all those people in the bar are not drinking to get drunk? You're going to tell me that guy who had a couple of shots of tequila was doing that because his stomach hurt? Or his head hurt? You know, Jesus went into a wedding. I guess you guys are all better than Jesus because you're billionaires. Went to a wedding and turned water into a wine. Okay? Turned water into wine. Now, he didn't do that because everybody had a headache and they had a foot ache and, they had a stomach ache. He did that because they were celebrating. Now, some people go, well, that was probably grape juice. That's not what it said in the Bible. It said wine. You know how we know that it's a mind-altering substance? Because in Proverbs, if you go read, it says how if someone is in distress or at the end of their life, give them a little bit of wine. Because God knows that that's going to calm them. That's going to make them feel better. If God is behind taking a poppy plant and using it for pain relief, or if God is behind taking another plant and calming it down and taking away your anxiety or making you feel better and gives you a little bit of a mind-altering feeling, then who the hell are you to make the decision on whether we should do that or not? Why does it always have to be the multimillionaires and the billionaires who make the decisions for the rest of the world? You were not voted in for this. I'm going to tell you right now. Now, I'm not saying let all the drugs be out there. That's not what I'm saying. You're not going to go out there and find a cocaine plant. You're just not. It had to be taken out of, from something natural and had to be created into that. Every other drug that's out there, that's what's had to happen. It had to be made out into something. But when you take natural substances and you say to the world, no, you can't have this, then all I can think to myself is that this is about money. And we've had enough of that. It's you money-driven people that have made the world a problem the way it is. Because you've made it all about money. You can't serve God and you can't serve mammon at the same time. You got to make up your mind. Now, again, I'm not saying everybody should sit around getting stoned. Don't take my words and twist it, because I hate that. But what I am saying is this is an industry. Read the words, hemp industry. You're looking to destroy an industry where there's hundreds of thousands of jobs and farmers and businesses that depend on selling these products. As I said, gummies, topical ointments, drinks. It's not just people sitting around smoking weed. There are people using these gummies for sleep. And yet you're going to destroy an entire industry because you don't agree with it. Or is there something else going on that you're looking to save somebody's money because hemp gets in the way? You're looking to, I don't know, protect Big Pharma? Well, are you going to tell me that it's better for somebody to take a Xanax? Because that's all the alternative is what Big Pharma offers. And it's all garbage. Big Pharma is garbage. It's been for a while. But if you're looking to protect Big Pharma, this is the kind of decisions that a person makes. And I'm not for it. I'm not looking to protect Big Pharma because all they've done is poison us for profitability. And how do I prove that? Go look at an ad from any drug that they advertise. And very sneakily, they have this low voice talking really fast on telling you all the conditions and even fatality that you could get from taking their medication. Ozempic. Everybody's making a big deal about Ozempic. How many doctors do we have out there saying that Ozempic causes muscle mass loss? You lose muscle. It causes a paralysis in the stomach, which is going to cause problems in the future, problems with the liver. I'm sorry, I don't remember any of this coming out about hemp or any of these problems coming out about THC or even the opiates that are controlled by doctors. No, you go and take, well, fentanyl was a problem. Well, who's taking fentanyl? Fentanyl was created. Fentanyl didn't come off a plant. It was derived from a plant and things were added to it. We know that now. The Chinese laboratories had admitted that. It is about the money. Exactly. Sudafed. People needed cold medication, and that was put behind the pharmacist. For what? Because people were making methamphetamine. Well, what were the other things that they were able to get to mix with the Sudafed to make methamphetamine? Why weren't they banned? You know, it's like, how many times do the people, the tax-paying people who support this country, the backbone of this country, have to be punished to protect somebody else's profit? How many times does that have to happen? You know, if you're so worried about people having mind-altering things that alter the mind, you might as well get rid of Benadryl while you're at it. Benadryl knocks a lot of people out. I mean, this is becoming stupid now. But as I said, if you're going to destroy an entire industry, instead of taking that industry and making it into something taxable, instead of taxing people who don't make enough money to be taxed in the first place, why don't you let that industry pay for what we can't afford? My husband makes less than $60,000 a year, and yet he pays about, I don't know, $800-900 a month in taxes. For what? To pay people who are going to tell us, well, we'd rather you drink alcohol than to take a THC derived, product? That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. Rand Paul, who's the only one that has a medical background, the reason why he said, I don't support this, is because he knows it's not dangerous. And probably knew there was going to be backlash, and there will be backlash. I'll make sure of it. Because if this is the case, you're going to destroy an industry, then destroy all the bars, shut them down, all the strip clubs, all the restaurants that have alcohol flowing in their establishments. Destroy that industry, and then I'll stand by you on this. You destroy that first, because that's the one that's most dangerous. That's the one where you got people driving all over the place in their cars drunk, and they get one DUI, and they get out of jail, and they get a second DUI and a third DUI. How many car accidents have there been that were fatalities? Not the driver, another innocent person loses their life because somebody had multiple DUIs and was allowed back behind the wheel. Or why sell alcohol at an airport if it's against federal law to allow a drunk person on a plane? Imagine what happened if you sold pot at an airport. You'd have a very pleasant flight, I can tell you that. Oh my gosh. I don't think I can put that up. I don't know why that's not going up. So I'm going to have to read it. 1 year ago, a guy ran his car through our house. He was high on THC. 75,000 later, my insurance has went through the roof because he didn't have insurance. Sydney, I'm not saying get behind the wheel. I can't stand this. I didn't say that it's right for people to get behind the wheel when they're taking anything. That includes pain medication. Okay? No, any mind altering substance, nobody should get behind the wheel. And that your story is 1 in a million. I hate to burst your bubble in this. I know you're trying to make a point, but my point is go out there and see how many stories are out there about somebody on THC killing somebody versus somebody who's on alcohol and kills somebody. 9 times out of 10, you will find that it's the one on alcohol who killed the most. Because they're the most violent drivers that are out there. That's the point I'm trying to make. Again, this is not about money. I'm sorry that he hit your house. And I'm sorry he didn't have insurance. I got hit by somebody who didn't have insurance either. And you know what I ended up with? Losing my ability to work at my career. I've taken a hit to my income. I haven't been able to do my job in 20 years. I've had to have 6 spinal surgeries. So I'd rather have a $75,000 loss than to have what I face every day, which is chronic pain. And then I got to have a bunch of millionaires and billionaires tell me what my doctor should prescribe to me? Why? I didn't go to law school, so if I all of a sudden become a billionaire tomorrow, should I just go into the court system and tell a judge how to be a judge? Should I tell a cop how to be a cop? Because I'm a billionaire, I know everything now. So why in the hell should a billionaire or a millionaire who's got no medical experience, never went to medical school, have anything to do with making decisions based on anything medicinal? They absolutely shouldn't. But when you've got somebody that's within the Capitol, like Rand Paul, who stands up and says, this is not a good idea, and he's got a medical background to some degree, don't you think he should be heard? Do you know how many people are on Xanax and all these other antidepressants that are making them nuts? And I believe that they pick up a weapon and harm people and kill people because they're on these medications, versus if they were on a hemp medication or THC, they probably wouldn't do that. That's my point. You know, the kid that hit me was not drunk and he wasn't on anything. He was rushing his dog to a hospital because the dog got hurt. But he had no insurance. His car was on the road illegally. And so I got screwed. So that can happen with people who aren't even on anything. You have an uninsured motorist on the road because they can't afford or don't want to pay their insurance, and you get screwed. And I got screwed. This is not about money, Cindy. This is about people's lives. And if we're going to destroy an entire industry because a bunch of billionaires and millionaires, trust me, I support President Trump. Okay? I really do. But I think he's had a real shakeup over what's been going on with fentanyl and all the damage it's caused. And just recently, he had said he reclassified cannabis because it was in the same classification as fentanyl and I think methamphetamine. And he realized it shouldn't be there because it's not as dangerous as those two other drugs. And he was right. So stay in that lane. As a matter of fact, it would be better if the government were to just decriminalize it. Because if you're not going to decriminalize it, then get rid of alcohol. And that's my point. We don't need it in our grocery stores. We don't need it in our gas stations. We don't need it in our restaurants. We don't need it in our airports. We don't need it. There's nothing medicinal about alcohol. You don't see a doctor prescribing alcohol, but you will see a doctor prescribe THC. You will see a doctor prescribe opiates, but you won't see a doctor give a prescription for a bottle of wine. And you know why? Because it's more damaging. Now, I'm not saying everybody go out there and take opiates, smoke a joint. That's not what I'm saying. Use your brain for a minute. Nobody should ever get behind the wheel. I'm sorry, you don't have a right to get behind the wheel under any substance, okay? So let's just even if you take a Benadryl, guess what? You shouldn't be driving. And that's over the counter. I'm just disappointed in this, and I pray it doesn't go through. If you look, this is the Hill, right? And if you look under what this is under, it's under healthcare. See where it says it right there? Healthcare. So this is regarding healthcare. And in this article, and I'll share it with you if you want to read it, it's from the Hill. This is not some, alternative news. This is the Hill. And it's talking about topical ointments that people use or gummies. And I've seen these gummies. There's some of these gummies they're used for couples that are having trouble, in bed, or sleep problems, or anxiety. Well, taken, I don't know. I'm sitting here going, I don't think it's a good idea that they get rid of it. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you're going in a better direction, especially if you're going to allow alcohol to be sold. I think you're going in a better direction by allowing this hemp, THC, or whatever, dispensaries, or even allowing, smoke shops to be decriminalized and allowed in this country. Let me say this one more time about the taxes. I remember President Trump saying that he wanted to remove income tax from people who made less than, I think it was $200,000 a year. Or even if it was $150,000 a year. You're talking about a lot of people who cannot afford. Okay? They're having a hard enough time living paycheck to paycheck. So instead of taking tax from them, wouldn't it make more sense to have a smoke shop? And then you're making profit for the community. You're making profit for, now some people go, oh my gosh, we're going to have people that are smoking pot. Well, what's the difference between that and all the bars? What's the difference? The difference is you're going to have a bunch of people just sitting there getting high, wanting to eat pizza and go home and crash, versus somebody who's going to be drinking all night, probably get behind their wheel and kill somebody or end up getting violent. I'm not saying everybody go out and get high. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're going to measure out the two, okay, one is more of a problem than the other. Alcohol is a massive issue. So if you're going to destroy, see the word industry? Industry. If you're going to destroy this industry, and let me just read to you, just to make the point of somebody who works in this industry, what she had said. And just to give you an idea, and they're really looking to go after the beverages, the gummies, the topical ointments. And if they win at that, yeah, they will go after the dispensaries. Okay. And that's what I'm trying to make a point here that makes no sense. Okay, so this is not 1 year to ban. This is 1 year to regulate, and the industry will do exactly that. United, determined, and unwilling to let Washington destroy what farmers built and consumers want. I'm sorry, but this is right. This is from Thomas Winstarley, the executive vice president, general manager of edibles.com, a new online hemp marketplace from the parent company Edible Arrangements. Is that hysterical? God bless Edible Arrangements. I'm sorry, it's very hard to read. I don't have my glasses that reads out. I have two monitors in front of me, and this one's a little further. A varied array of groups rallied in support of the legislation, including alcohol groups, cannabis, and cannabis-adjacent companies, as well as major marijuana prohibition groups. Okay? So did you hear that? Alcohol groups. Okay, and they're lobbying for hard for limits or bans on hemp-based THC and aren't eager for Congress to change it. That's what I'm saying. Get rid of alcohol then. The American Trade Association for Cannabis and Hemp, in a statement, said the funding bill provision made an important distinction between intoxicating and non-intoxicating products and synthetic and natural products. The intoxicating hemp marketplace is rife with bad actors peddling synthetic drugs and cannabis under the guise of hemp, often without sufficient age gating. Okay, see, here's the problem. Now, how many times have we heard of young people getting a hold of alcohol because some stupid adult would go in there and buy it for them? Now, in the Netherlands, and I can say this from personal experience because I've been there, you can't walk into one of those places without showing an ID. And if you're under the age of 18, you could forget it. And there's no way you're going to be able to even go and buy it and give it to somebody outside. You know why? Because every place that's out there has security standing outside. Security is standing outside. So yeah, they pay for security. And it's the security that checks the ID. So you don't even get in. But if you had these places up and running here, and the kind of money that they would be making, you'd be able to afford to have that kind of security. See, Americans never figured this out. The Netherlands is probably as big as Florida, and they figured it out. And this is one of the richest countries in Europe. Okay, I'm trying to find where the woman, oops, I guess I passed it. Where there was a woman who was talking about how many farmers this was going to affect and how many jobs were going to be destroyed over this. And maybe it was another. Okay, you know what, guys? I might have been another article. Forgive me. This is a couple of articles out there talking about this. Yeah, I think it was another one. I'm sorry. But there's like hundreds of thousands of jobs that are going to be affected. Farms galore throughout this country. And whether it's intoxicating or non-intoxicating, I don't care. Who cares? As long as they're adults and they're doing it responsibly. Hasn't that been the same rules for people drinking alcohol? And yet we don't see that happening? Let me say it once again. You're not allowed on an airplane if you're drunk, but yet they sell alcohol at an airport. Why? Why? You're in an enclosed environment. Everybody that's in that airport, past security, where else are they going? There's no other option but on an airplane, duh. So if you don't want people getting drunk and getting on an airplane, wouldn't it stand to reason not to sell alcohol there? And yet they allow it. But you're going to poo-poo on the hemp industry? That makes no sense to me. I don't know, Taken. I do not know. I do not know. Yes, Cindy. Yes. He did sneak it in the bill. And Mitch, who's 175 years old, there's no way this man isn't taking something on the side. There just isn't. There just isn't. This is the kind of crap that we deal with from our capital, from our government, making these kinds of decisions. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. If you're going to get rid of, if you're so worried about the intoxication of THC, then get rid of alcohol. Then get rid of it. It's not necessary. It's caused more problems than anything else. It's unnecessary to have any alcohol being sold. It's unnecessary to have bars. Get rid of it. You don't need it. If this is what you want, but if you're willing to destroy this industry, you should be willing to destroy the alcohol industry as well. You know why they won't do it? Because most of these multimillionaires and billionaires are buddies and friends with all the people that own the alcohol industry. That's why. Johnson said they were going to vote to take it out. What, to take out the what do you mean, Cindy? To take it out of the bill? They should, if that's what you're talking about. They should take it out of the bill. And it's available in flight. Crystal, thank you. But see, here's the thing. In flight, okay, they are, Cindy, good. In flight, you get the little bottles, right? Now, again, I don't drink, so I don't know. So if I'm wrong in this, somebody correct me. But you can't get 20 little bottles. It's limited. There's a limit. Now, hear me out here. There's a limit. So let's say, for example, you get on an airplane and you like vodka, okay? And you want a vodka drink. So you get one little thing of vodka. You say to the woman, okay, you know what? I want another one. Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, you only get 3 or you only get 2. I'm under the impression that 10 to 1, they're also drinkers. Yes, Crystal, exactly. Now, here's the thing about the limits. If you want to sell alcohol, this is the same thing with THC or any kind of smoke shop they were allowed to open, okay? There are ways, especially now that we're in 2025 going into 2026 with all the technology that we have, there are ways to make sure that somebody's not showing up at your establishment drunk and ordering more alcohol or too drunk to order another drink. Now, you can't say, well, you could have a breathalyzer because everybody's going to be putting their mouth on something and you don't want that to happen. You can't have a breathalyzer or anything like that. There should be limits at bars. And it should be based on either their ID. Again, I stand behind databases. You want to sell something? You want to be legalized to be able to sell. I said the same thing about opiate prescriptive drugs. Hear me out. I actually wrote this out with the University of Michigan in 2017. This was about opiates, but this could also be about marijuana, and this can also be about alcohol. If you want to sell any of these products, legally, you have to have a database in your establishment. What does this database do? Somebody comes up with their ID. You put their name, you put their date of birth. Without the ID, they get nothing. Nothing. Even if you want to do a thumbprint, you can. And what does that mean? It says on today's date, so and so, today, November 14th, 2025, at 10 o'clock a.m., Ann Plagenborg came in and purchased this. Okay, and the amount and paid this, and the end of the story. So if I go across town or another county and look to do the same, I'll be denied. Why? Because you're already in the database. And that's how you do it. And you know how I know that works? Once again, the Netherlands has that all throughout the whole country. If a doctor gives me a prescription for anything that's mind altering, they call it Class A. Okay, Valium, Xanax, opiates, you name it. And then I look to go to the South Holland, and I go to another doctor and I get the same prescription, and I go to a pharmacy and I tried to fill that pharmacy. It doesn't have to be the same pharmacy at all. They're going to go into the database and go, you just filled this prescription. And it doesn't matter if you want to pay private. It doesn't matter if you want to put on your insurance. You will be denied being able to fill that prescription because you already have it. Why hasn't the United States of America figured this out? Stop going after the industry and go after the way things are run. We're supposed to be the most free, the most advanced. This is the place where people come for the American dream. Why is the American dream so stupid? Why are the people that are trying to run the American dream and create the American dream so idiotic? We've got Elon Musk, okay? You've got all these people that have such incredible skill and understanding of technology, and yet you can't implement this? Yes, Susan. Yeah. Interview that he had never touched alcohol because his brother died from alcoholism. Yes. And Susan, I understand that. I totally understand. Listen, if you don't like something, that's on you. But you don't destroy an entire industry because of your personal feelings. Because what does that do? That's okay. Getting rid of alcohol, guys, would cause, prohibition again. We don't want that. We don't want it to be illegal because that's where there's crime. That's where there's murder. That's where there's rape. That's where all these things that happen that we don't want in our society. I'd rather the law have control, better control. Alcohol needs to be more controlled. I'm sorry, but it's not controlled enough. And back in 1929, that was understandable, but not today. And that's the same for you do the same thing with marijuana. It's going to be out on the street, and people are going to lace it, and there's going to be crime, and there's going to be drugs being sold on the street corners, and then that's where all the other drugs start being sold. Let's be real. Same thing with opiates. You're going to take that away from the elderly. You're going to take that away from people that are in chronic pain. You're going to see a lot of problems. And if you're not smart enough to be able to navigate and see that or forecast that, then talk to the people who can. Because it's obvious. I agree, Jamie. Black market, exactly. And there wouldn't be a black market if we had more control over these things, at least. So instead of taxing the people who can't afford it to death, who can barely pay their bills, how about you start responsibly dispersing and allowing the sale of these things? When I say responsibly, I mean exactly what I explained about a database. If an establishment refuses or cannot afford the database, then you don't get to sell it. Why is it that you have to have a license, a piece of paper, but you can't put in a database? Give me a break. Everybody's got a computer. They're walking around with one in their hand. So you're going to tell me that establishments can't afford it? I don't believe that for 1 minute. The government needs to put that in. I remember a doctor I was working for years ago. He was a diet doctor. And he was literally dispersing the medication directly from his office. And he was worried that, the DEA was going to come in and look over his records. So I had to go in there and I had to update all his records. It took me like 9 months to do this. And by doing that, I had to call in the patients and have them come in, and they had to be seen. And, we just had to update their vitals and their, all kinds of information. And what I could never understand is that this was back in the 90s. I can understand not having a database back then. But why wouldn't you have one now? Because that was a controlled substance he was given. I think it was fentanyl. Forgive me. No, phentermine. It was phentermine. So it was like a speed. And naturally, of course, that's something that's considered a very serious. Oh, look at that. Did you see what just happened? Did you see that? Let me get rid of it. Let me get rid of that. Okay, now we're back to normal to some degree. How was he able to even disperse that? Why wasn't he just giving out prescriptions and then going to a drugstore? Walgreens doesn't know what CVS is doing, and CVS doesn't know what Rite Aid is doing, and you can go on and on and on with this. How come they haven't figured this out? This is how you get control and how things are not. You wouldn't have had a pill mill. There would have never been pill mills in South Florida if they would have implemented a database back then. And you're only talking about maybe 20 years ago, less than. Instead of taking it away from the people that need it or the people that want it. Doesn't matter, tax us. We get taxed for existing. Who cares about tax anywhere? Plus, legislation and taxation eliminates cartel issues. I say tax with these industries. Use them. You're not going to get rid of them. I don't care if you don't like alcohol, you don't like pot, or you don't like, I don't like painkillers. Fine, nobody asked you what you like. Okay? And I'm saying this to the multimillionaires and billionaires. Nobody asked you what you like. Okay? You're put there to run the government. That's it. Not run us. We the people. It's not you the capital. It's we the people. And the people need to make that decision for themselves. Your job is to make sure it's regulated and safe. That's your job. Not to dictate what we're allowed and not allowed to do. And if you see marijuana as being an issue criminally, then what would somebody with half a brain do? Somebody with half a brain and business sense would say, I'm not going to be able to get rid of this. This is a plant, so it could be grown anywhere. Obviously, God created it. So who the hell am I to say it shouldn't exist? So just decriminalize it and regulate it so that we make sure it's nobody ever puts anything dangerous in it. We know who's buying it. We know how much they're buying. And we're regulating the amount that's being purchased, which also happens in the Netherlands. You're only allowed to buy, I think it's like 5 grams or something per purchase. And if you don't want people to buy more than that, even at a daily amount, then create a database that says that. But again, you wouldn't have had pill mills. You wouldn't have had all this abuse of opiates. You guys remember that guy Murdaugh? Okay. And Murdaugh was taking opiates for funsies. How did he get his hands on it? How did he get his hands on it? You shouldn't be able to get your hands on any medication like that unless you're seeing a doctor and have a diagnosis that supports it. This is what I'm talking about. There's no real regulation over these things. Instead, their answer to everything is, well, just get rid of it. Well, if you're going to do that, then get rid of alcohol. And you know they're not going to get rid of alcohol because the alcohol companies will scream and yell and jump up and down. And they bring in a lot of money. So do these stupid bars and stripper clubs and all these other places. They bring in a lot of money. Well, tax the crap out of them instead of taxing us. Prescription drug monitoring program. Now, Timberly, it's funny because that was basically what we had proposed back in 2017. As I said, I was working alongside these people at University of Michigan, and we were trying to figure out how to control all prescription medication, but mainly the opiates. Because we know there are a lot of people who do need this, that take it for chronic pain, and it should be controlled, not by an insurance company, not by the government, by your doctor. But doctors can only do so much. Did they? Did they use my? Oh, you mean that actually is out there? This PMP interconnect? Well, if they did, good. I'm glad to hear it. Is it something that they just started now? Let me put that up for you. Why isn't that oh, it is showing. Okay. Is that something that's been created just recently? Because if they did, wonderful. That's good news because it's about friggin' time. Alcohol is way more harmful. 2018, really? Okay, well, I proposed it in 17. That's wonderful. But they're not doing a good enough job. And I think that this is where they should it's like almost like a what do they call that when you're working on a crime? Chain of custody. There should be sort of a chain of custody from the laboratories that create these drugs to the pharmaceutical company that sells them, to the pharmacies that have them, to the doctors who prescribe them, and then to the patient, and that they're at the end of that chain. And what I mean by that is, I told you guys about my doctor that I was going to, it was about a year and a half ago, and he was somehow prescribing hundreds of outside of the office, not inside, not to his patients. But somehow him and this other woman got a hold of hundreds of thousands of opiates and Xanaxes and all kinds of Class A drugs. And he got in trouble with the DEA and got, lost his license and the whole thing. It was very sad. And my point is, if this chain of command, if you will, was put into place, he would have never been able to do it. He wouldn't have been able to pass any of that chain to even get a hold of that. Same with the pain med pill mills that were going on in South Florida. They would have never been able to get away with that. And what they were getting away with back down there, I don't think they're open anymore. I pray they're not. Was that somebody off the street could walk in with some random x-ray and go, look, I have a bump on my elbow or whatever, something stupid. We all have something that's going to show up on an x-ray. I hate to tell you. The older you get, the more that's likely. And then they would turn around and give them, either they would disperse it right there and they would get like 300 or 400 pills in a bottle, as long as they paid cash, and I think most likely it was dispersed there, or they got a prescription for that. And that should have been a red flag if they brought it to a pharmacy, right? It should have been flagged on a database. Why is this person getting this? What diagnoses did they get to be able to get this medication? And to be able to disperse it, even then, You would have had to put it in a database. Why are you seeing this patient? What diagnosis are you given to allow you to prescribe this medication? And so what? People like me and you who are chronic pain and have been through multiple surgeries and are ill and are truly dealing with chronic pain should be punished because the government and the law couldn't get their crap together and make sure that this didn't happen and didn't regulate things well. Well, then do me a favor, American government. Go sit down with the Dutch government and find out how they figured it out. Go ask them how they figured it out. Instead of taking it out on the American public, which we've been through enough, go ask them how they figured it out, because they did figure it out. And you can't you can't abuse these things over there like you can over here. I don't think it's going to take effect. I don't think it's going to take effect. I think it was somebody had said on here that it was just slipped into the bill, hoping that it would be voted on, but I don't think it's going to be. At this point, it would be political suicide to do it. It would absolutely be political suicide. You will lose a lot of voters. What do you mean, Crystal? Do you mean the pill mills? I don't think they're up and running anymore. Is that who you're talking about? Who and why so many? If that's what you're talking about, that was something that was just, people were coming from other states just to go to these places and get a whole buttload of opiates and then go back to their state and take some of them and then sell the rest. They were being sold on the street. And this was, again, because the government couldn't figure out how to put something in place that would have had regulations on all of this. Instead, they just take it out on the American government. It's just a very lazy way of trying to fix a problem. It's not the correct way. It's just a lazy way. And then you got people who can just go to a local bar and get as drunk as possible and then drive on our streets and get away with it. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. Even that should be regulated. If you went to a bar and had a whole, I was going to say shitload, buttload of drinks, and then you go over to the grocery store, the gas station, and buy even more, even that should be regulated. If that's what you're concerned about is the American public and our safety, then put regulations on stuff. But don't make it illegal, because all you're going to do is cause more criminality. That's all you're going to do. You're not going to stop anything. It's just going to be a constant circle of crimes and criminal violence, and it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And to regulate even things like topical ointment, that's just the dumbest thing I ever heard. It really is stupid. They have drinks now that you can buy, selling them on the street. These drinks, they can be regulated. If you're so worried about regulating a drink that's got THC in it, why aren't you worried about regulating a drink that's got alcohol in it? This makes no sense to me. I know I'm repeating myself here, but maybe it bears repeating. I remember working for this French-Canadian doctor back in the 90s. I was covering for her until the Humana Center that I was going to go work for was opened. And she had a patient. Now, this was, geriatrics, so they were older. But still, I didn't want to see abuse happening there either. And so this patient came in and got, a prescription of Darvocet. It was for a 30-day prescription. In less than a week and a half, he went through that bottle, came back and asked for another prescription. And so she said, ration card, exactly, Crystal. Thank you very much. So why is it that the Europeans figure it out, but the Americans can't? So this doctor said, write him another script. And I said, why would I send him another script when he took 30 days worth in a week and a half, less than 2 weeks? You don't see that there's a problem? And she yelled at me and she said, "Just write him another script. Don't worry about it." I said, "You can write it. I'm not writing. I'm not putting my name on that." And she did. She did. She wrote him another prescription. Oh, for alcohol and cigarettes? Yeah. So they'll ration that. Amazing. Well, if they can ration that, then they can ration everything. Everything else can be controlled. It's not like you got a constitutional right to get drunk or high. Okay. But, we do have a right to be able to be cared for. And if our doctor is writing a script to be able, well, let me finish the first story and then I'll tell you the second one. I actually just forgot the first story. Sorry. Okay, the doctor. So yeah, she gave him another script, and I walked away from that. I quit that night because I was in fear that this man could die from her decision. Now, if there would have been once again a database put into place, she wouldn't have been able to do that. She, the doctor, would have had to have answered for why are you prescribing him more when he just finished 30 days worth in a week and a half. You should have found out what was going on with him and why he was taking so many. Maybe he was dealing with some sort of pain, you know. You're excited to see my live. Also appreciate the extra videos you share on this page. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad. I'm very, very glad about that. I'm sorry. A rational card for alcohol. Do that and see the mania it causes in U.S. They would go bonkers, especially in the southern states. Okay, well, I think the rationing when we say that, Jamie, is really towards going out and drinking, not so much purchasing and bringing home. If you're going to purchase it and bring it home, by all means, enjoy. But if you're going to go out and drink and there's this potential of you being behind the wheel, then there should be some sort of rationing to how many drinks you're allowed to have while you're out there and driving around. Not everybody can prove that they're taking an Uber. You know what I mean? So, you have to think about that. We have to think about the safety of other people. It can't be about what everybody wants to do or what makes them feel good. And again, I understand that they're trying these people here in the government or in the Capitol, whatever, are trying to make decisions, I think, maybe for the betterment of the people. But I do have this sinking feeling that profitability has something to do with this too. Because you're going after one industry and you're not going after the other, and that doesn't make any sense to me. It would be nuts, especially if there's an issue with a 5-gram allowance of flour. Well, hi, Debbie. Everybody wave to Debbie. Is my best friend Debbie there. I'll be honest with you, Jamie. I don't see a problem with that. Maybe it should be a little more than 5. Maybe it should be more. I think it was per visit. Yes. Yeah, yes, I agree. Let me put up what Jamie is saying here. Yes, they all should be treated the same. Because you know what? They all can be potentially dangerous. They can all potentially harm someone who abuses them. So it's not so much that you have a right to these things, but at this point, it would be stupid not to say to yourself, especially if you're a legislator or somebody in the government, that if I say to the people, this is now considered illegal, that it's not going to end up on the street. And then it's not going to end up being sold illegally. And then all kinds of horrible problems come from that. And I thought we were beyond that. I would rather see, again, I'm not a supporter of alcohol, but I'm not stupid enough to say it's going to go away. There, like you said, there's plenty of people that want it and they want to be able to drink, so regulate it. Regulate it. Now, I'm not saying you should have a database on what people buy related to alcohol. But if you're going from place to place and buying drinks, there should be something that's put into place to be able to regulate how much you drank that night. Because people go bar hopping and they go from bar to bar. Think about Key West. I don't know if you've ever been to Key West. Anybody that has, there's a street, and it's a whole row of bars. Now, most likely those people are on foot, but can you guarantee that? No, you can't guarantee that they're not going to get behind the wheel. So do you really need to have 20 drinks, or do you really need to have 10? No. Some people, I don't know, maybe there should be a 3 to 5 drink allowance. Because then if somebody's got a problem with that, then what you're saying is I have the right to get drunk out in public and cause harm. And if there's no way to be able to regulate that, and the bar hopping, yeah, and you're not willing, and I'm talking about the lawmakers, to find a way to regulate it because you don't want to deal with the backlash, then I don't think you should go after cannabis. Because not everybody wants to drink alcohol, and not everybody. Why are you defending the drunks who cause more problems in this society than anything else, and telling everybody else, the ones who prefer cannabis over alcohol, sorry, you don't have a right. And if you go looking for it, we're going to arrest you. That's kind of unfair. Instead, I think that they should make the right decision, which would be to decriminalize it and make it so that it's being sold by shops, regulated by the government, making it safe. And that's it. And the same laws that are put on the people that drink alcohol are the same laws that are expected and put on the people who consume cannabis, whether it be by smoking and drinking and gummies and topical ointments, whatever they choose to do, it's their choice. Now, when I'm talking about medication, that's different. The medication should be prescribed and decided by the doctors only, not big pharma, not the insurance company, the doctors. However, I just told you about a doctor who was kind of abusing it. That needs to be regulated. That needs to be put in a database. And that database needs to be shared not just by the doctors, but by all pharmacies throughout the country. I just told you about people who would come from other states to go to these pill mills. Well, that needs to be stopped. And how do you stop that? If I get a prescription from one doctor for 30 days worth of something, I can't go to the state closest to me and see another doctor and get 30 days worth of something from him. I can't do that. I mean, I can, but I won't be able to fill it for another 30 days. And that's the way it should be. And then if you find one patient going to multiple doctors, there should be a red flag put on that patient, because most likely they're selling it on the street and they're not using it for care. Most people that are going to a doctor and getting a prescription like that for their own care don't go to multiple doctors, they go to one. What I'm saying is, instead of slipping something like a snake into a bill to destroy an entire industry, come up with a better solution. Yeah, you have to show ID to be able to get Sudafed. Show it like an ID and keep track of public consumption. Yeah, absolutely. This is a better decision. This is a better way of controlling, that's not a good word. This is a better way of protecting the public. than by destroying an industry. That's what I have to say about that. I think we just need to stop already with the well, I don't like somebody had just said that President Trump said his brother or somebody in his family was killed in a car accident from alcohol. And so now we're going to get rid of all alcohol. Well, first of all, I don't even see that happening. You never see any article where they're going after bars or alcohol. You never see that. It's always let's attack cannabis and pain medication. Why? And you don't go after alcohol. I don't understand that. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people trying to get on a plane drunk. And I sit there and go, I don't get it. Please help me to understand why we've got drunk people in an airport. Why is it so important to serve alcohol in an airport? But people act like they have a right. No, you don't. There's no constitutional right that says you have a right to get drunk. Somebody may say, what is that? It says that you have a right to happiness and the pursuit of happiness. And I guess the pursuit of happiness is getting drunk. Well, not for everybody. Some people feel that way about getting stoned. Some people feel that way about getting pain relief from their doctor without having the government step in and tell you, no, we don't think that's good for you. Well, that's not fair. Yeah, that's exactly it. Alcohol causes so many public disturbances and domestically at home, but that's none of our business, but way more lethal. Well, it is kind of our business because it does affect society. Think about it. With the Micah Miller case, for example, a lot of women, and I'm going to say women, I mean, I know there's men out there, but a majority of them are women, went through their own DV, and I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of them, the abuser, was drunk, was drinking. Most likely they were not on opiates or smoking pot. So it's not just getting behind the wheel and causing car accidents, but you never see the government go after, you never hear presidents or the Congress or the Senate or any of these people, the Capitol, ever going after alcohol, but they'll go after cannabis and opiates. Why? I think it's profitability. I think it has to do with money. And if that's the reasoning behind it, that you're protecting alcohol, but you're looking to go after everything else to make it look like you're doing your job, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. That's all I have to say about that. I don't think there should be any ban on THC. And I don't even think there should be a ban on alcohol. And I think that you should just leave the friggin' pain meds alone. But they should all be regulated. So that, what does that mean? You're going to have to put in some work. Capital, government, lawmakers. You're going to have to put in some time and effort. You're going to have to find the right people to put together what needs to be implemented to control and regulate these things. As I said, there should be something that's put into all establishments that serve alcohol based on a person's ID. You have to show ID to buy a drink anyway. What else would you use? Maybe you need to put a thumbprint on all the IDs. Maybe that's what you need to use so that somebody doesn't walk in there and use somebody else's ID. We've had that happen. I mean, my God, you can't come up with this? When somebody comes here to immigrate, they have to go through biometrics. You know what part of the biometrics is? They take pictures of like your eyeballs and they take your fingerprints. Why in the hell can't you do that in a bar? Somebody comes in and orders a drink, put your thumb down, give me your ID, make sure it's the same thumbprint. Thank you. Here's your drink. Duh. I mean, it's just like super simple. We do that to open our phones, and yet you can't do that to be able to control how much alcohol a person drinks per night and lower the amount of alcohol related car accidents that are out there. And opiates. I already explained to you how you can control that from being abused, and the same thing with cannabis. But instead of putting these things into place, we're going to attack an entire industry. I'm sorry, it makes no sense, and it's just lazy government. When you've got other governments that have figured it out. They figured it out. That's all. That's all I have to say. I hope that they smarten up. I hope they take this out of the bill. And I hope they realize how stupid it is. And I hope they leave the American public alone and let them make decisions for themselves. Okay? Just like they should make decisions on their own money and how they spend it instead of the government deciding how to spend it. And I was very proud of President Trump on turning around and going, instead of giving all this money to Obamacare, which is a big fat failure, we're going to give it back to the American people and let them decide where they're going to get their health insurance. Bravo! Finally, government is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And now this comes out. And I'm like, we just went back 5 steps. Oh, Stan, go screw yourself, dude. Get the hell out of here. Just get lost, man. Go seek help for your Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. You'll be removed as soon as I get a chance. As a matter of fact, I could do it right now. Is he really going to do that? I don't see why not. It's not as if it can't be done. It really isn't, Jamie. It's not like it can't be done. Hold on, I have to get rid of this moron. It really isn't, Jamie. Oh, you hear me talking? Let me see if I can. I'm not sure if I need a mod. I used to have mods. Let's see, it's going to the chat. Well, I can't get into my chat. Isn't that weird? I guess I'll have to just find this bonehead. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I guess he's gone. It was a Stan Durko. Well, I don't know where he went. I don't see him, but I'll find him later. I'm not going to waste my time on somebody like this. Anyhow, this is what I came on this morning to talk to you guys about. And I know you were hoping that I was going to come on and talk about Micah and Chris. And we're still we're still waiting. We're in like the waiting phase of, when justice is going to be served. We know that it will be soon. So we're just in the waiting phase. In the interim, and somebody had said it here earlier, thanking me for, sharing what has been going on out there in the world. And I don't mind doing that at all. And I really hope that you guys are following Dr. Steve Turley. And we know is another one. I hope that you're at least following Dr. Steve, because, this guy does about 3 or 4 videos per day. And he will give you the absolute updates on all that's going on. And it really good things have been going on. Oh, you live in Brooklyn? Oh, well, welcome. Wonderful. I'm glad to have you here. A fellow New Yorker. As you could tell, I'm from Long Island. I'm not sure if you figured that out by now. Um, so there were a lot of good things have been happening. Like this shutdown was just so stupid, but at least we came out of it, in a better position, in a better place. So, yeah, yeah, praying for arrest soon. We're all praying for that. I played last week. Something's going on where John Paul was asking the 12 people that are still following him. I'm surprised these 12 people are still following for fasting and praying, and that whatever it was life and death, and he was going through something that was life and death. He wasn't really, clear about what it was, but whatever it is, I'm assuming it has to do with something legal. So we just pray that very soon you know, we hear something close to the justice that we've been looking for from both Micah and Chris. I pray that it will happen. But a lot of things are going on. It's constant. And like I said, Dr. Turley will do a show 3 or 4 times a day. They usually last about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes per show. And you would be shocked at what he covers, So there is a lot going on, a lot of good things going on. Well, yeah, it would have been a lot shorter. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's so funny because I had gone on Twitter and I had said, um, if this shutdown goes on any longer, not receive their pay. Yes, not. Yeah, I did. I see that. Um, then I think that you need to stop paying, especially the ones who were not coming and voting, which you know who they were. And so it was just funny how the shutdown stopped shortly after that was, after that was said. And I think it was Senator Kennedy that came forward and said, let's now stop paying, everybody in the Capitol, the politicians there, that were not voting, the ones that weren't voting, you know, let's stop their paychecks until we're able to stop the shutdown. And then it was funny how that all of a sudden the shutdown was done. Yeah, so I agree with you on that. For a long time, we've had people in our government who have been profiting off of us. They've been lying to us about what they were doing with our tax money. Insider trading, that needs to be dealt with. That's not fair that they get away with it. And yet, if I do it or you do it or Martha Stewart does it, we go to jail. I don't like this two-way street or this. Forgive me. That there's these. I forgot the term. It's one way for them and one way for us. It should be illegal for everybody to do insider trading, and that's what they were doing. Look at Nancy Pelosi. I mean, these people only make 6 figures and they're multimillionaires. So how long do we have to watch them get away with whatever they want and then put regulations on us and then tax us and use our money for things that we didn't even agree to? I could say worse, but I have to, I think, be careful on YouTube because they're always listening to me and watching what I'm saying. So if you could tell, I'm tripping over my words, trying to be careful. But yeah, there's a lot of things that Kennedy said he didn't take his pay. Well, good for him. I like Kennedy. So I'm at the point where I'm tired of being told how to live my life by a bunch of people who don't live their life in a very honest way, and I voted President Trump in. I was one of the people that voted for him. Um, yeah, it's about the lobbyists. Enough with the lobbyists. And that needs to end with the lobbying. Um, because the fact of the matter is, it's the taxpayer paying for all this. Let's be real. Okay? It's the taxpayer. And I don't think it was unfair enough during the Biden administration when the taxpayer was paying for illegals to come into the country and stay at luxury hotels and get thousands of dollars put on an ATM card and get all kinds of benefits and whatnot. And we were barely living paycheck to paycheck. And we tolerated that. And now we vote you in and your administration in for looking for something better. And now you're going to put regulation on us? You got to be friggin' kidding me. You got to be kidding me. It's not going to be tolerated. So it's not going to be the same old story anymore. I don't think the country wants it anymore. You've been screwing with our health care that all of us are basically sick. Well, let's think about it. How many people have an autoimmune disease? I bet you if I could see the chat, most of you'd had your hand up. And where do you think that came from? You've got people in these other countries that, again, were able to regulate the use of cannabis successfully. And their public, their people, their citizens are healthy. Why? Because the government there didn't allow human growth hormone and antibiotics and preservatives in all their food. They eat food. If it's a tomato, it's an actual friggin' tomato. If it's an apple, it's an actual friggin' apple. I was looking at this meme that was out there on Twitter. It's where you get most of your truth from. And they were comparing a non-organic strawberry to a strawberry. Okay? And or an organic to a non-organic. In the organic, naturally, the only ingredient was strawberry. In the non-organic one, which most of us can only afford, there was 29 different chemicals in it. Did you hear that? 29 different chemicals. And then you want to know why we have fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, thyroid problems. Well, who wouldn't have all this? And then you mix that in with weather manipulation. You got water that comes out of the tap you can't even drink. I don't even know if it's safe to brush teeth anymore with it. And we're paying for it. What are we, idiots? They just talked about when they did the shutdown, when they stopped the shutdown, that the Department of Justice, antitrust form of the Department of Justice, is now looking into why beef has been so expensive. And the reason why was because the packaging companies were gouging the prices. You just figured this out? Now you're going to do something about it? Do you know how much of our money has been spent on this? That's why a lot of our foods don't go through customs. That's right, because it's garbage. Because it's absolute garbage. So we're all sick, we're all in pain, our joints hurt. And now you're going to walk in here and go, well, we're going to put beef tallow and everything. And that's great. Wonderful. Take away the seed oils because they suck. But don't you think, once again, these are people who are not doctors. Robert Kennedy's not a doctor. I don't care how many books he read. Does he have any idea how much damage has been done to our hormones, to our metabolic system, to our joints, to our bodies? Does he? Well, Dr. Oz is on scene. Dr. friggin' Oz? Well, I'm sorry, I've never seen Dr. Oz. He doesn't know my background and how much I've been through. He's never done vitals on me. He's never run a blood test on me. So I really don't think he should be making, he should at least give opinion about certain things. But how about leave it up to my actual doctor? Me too, Crystal. Me too, Crystal. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How many people have talked about what the damage that all these vaccines have done, right? We're still pushing for it. So that you'll push for, but let's go after the cannabis. I just, I'm done with government. I've lost all hope. If they're going to push this through, I've totally lost all hope. I just hope that God himself descends down on all of them and says, forget it. Let's wipe them all out and start all over again, because it's just enough already. If you guys can't figure out how to do this the proper way and stop taking away our freedoms and stop poisoning us. I said to Robert Kennedy in a letter, and it's on my Facebook page, by the way. It's actually tagged to the top. You can read it. And I said, I really do appreciate that you're looking to make us healthier. I really am. I do appreciate that. It's nice to know that somebody cares and that you're looking to make it so that people that deal with chronic pain won't be in chronic pain so much that they won't need this medication. I appreciate that as well. But there's no diet and no exercise that's going to get rid of the pain that I get from the metal, from the 6 spinal surgeries I've had. It's just not. And my own surgeon told me that. How is he any better than my surgeon? Me too, Crystal. I do too. I say the same. I don't want anything. Somebody had just asked me recently if I wanted the flu, and I said no. No, I've had the flu. My own body is able to fight it off on its own. I don't need your help. Thank you. Yeah. Amazing. So I just, let's not go backwards. Let's not go backwards. Let's be more innovative, government. Let's figure this out and be more creative on how to fix certain problems. And if you're looking to fix the drug problems that are in our country, you could start by removing alcohol. If you don't like the issue of addiction, then you need to get rid of all addictive things. That includes the fast food that you guys enjoy. You might as well get rid of McDonald's. You might as well get rid of chocolate. You might as well get rid of gambling. You might as well get rid of the strippers and all the sexual porn that's out there. Okay, let's just get rid of all addiction. I mean, you really want to go after the addictives, let's do it. Get rid of potato chips. Get rid of soda. Okay? And then let's go after alcohol, which we all know is addictive. We know there's an addiction attached to alcohol. But if you're not willing to get rid of all of those things that your buddies are making billions of dollars on, then leave everything else alone. Finally, THC has made its way to be decriminalized enough to where there's dispensaries for people that either could get it medicinally from their doctor or get it recreationally because they're adults and they're free to do it. It's none of your damn business if they want to do it or not. But if you take that off, if you destroy that industry, once again, we're going to have drug crimes that we thought we just got rid of. Why get rid of all these illegal immigrants to get rid of the cartel if you're going to allow drug crime to come back again on our streets? That makes no sense. Anyway, I've spent an hour and 35 minutes trying to explain how all these things can be fixed, and how we have to stop thinking one way. We have to stop trying to control. The establishment has to stop thinking that they're so important, so above it all, that they need to control the rest of us. We don't need your control. We don't need you to think for us. We just need you to do your job, which is to regulate. That's what your job is. Not dictate. You live your life your way, we'll live our lives our way. So, okay, guys, thank you for joining me. I hope I made some sort of a point. And you guys are awesome for being here. Yes, decriminalize it, absolutely. Thank you for joining me. And I will be back soon. We will go over more information that I wanted to share with you. Not new information, but stuff that I had found on TikTok regarding Micah. That I wanted to share with you. And it's older stuff, but I don't think it made its way from TikTok to YouTube. So, and I don't think I've ever covered it. So I'm going to cover it here. And I did promise you guys, so we will go over it. And again, let me just once again say this. I don't use THC. I don't drink alcohol. So I'm not out there looking to go, everybody get drunk and high. I'm just saying, if you're going to go after one, go after them all. Stop picking and choosing and cherry picking, and making it where you favor one and then you want to get rid of the other. That makes no sense. Stop taxing the people who can't afford it like you promised. Take away the income tax for the people who can't really afford to pay the income tax. And if you're not willing to go towards the people who get loopholes because they're wealthy and can afford an accountant that can find the loopholes, then why don't you put in these smoke shops like you got the bars and let them pay the taxes and let them cover the tax? A smart person would do that and regulate it and making it safer for the public. Regulating both that and alcohol and the consumption of it in bars and establishments. This is all easily fixable if you're willing to be innovative and creative and do the right thing. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see anytime, Jamie. Anytime, please come back. Notifications from YouTube are stupid, so you have to kind of look for me. I try to make it here about once a week. I wish I could give you a schedule, but my life doesn't allow that. So just look for me. You'll see that I'm live. Usually it's during the day, Eastern Standard Time. We're both in the same time zone, so we're good. Thank you for joining me, guys. Please stay safe. Please stay in prayer. Always remember Lord's Prayer and Psalm 91. Say it out loud in the name of Jesus Christ. And I will see you soon. Until I do see you again, God bless.